everybody, Dream Room 64 here, and today's video is going to start off with a really quick mention of this. This is a plasma monitor that I'm setting up in my home office here. So if you saw before, I had a 13-inch Trinitron here. So I decided to pull this thing out of storage, and so far I'm really liking it. So I am going to dedicate a whole video upcoming to this thing, talking about the merits of plasma TVs, particularly plasma monitors like this one. This is something that most people regard as e-waste, and if you can get your hands onto one, they're basically free at this point. So I think it's something that'll be really interesting to talk about and show you a whole video on. All right, but anyway, today's video is going to be about some recent flea market finds, and the story all starts with this switch dock. All right, we're down here in my living room, and this is a little TV stand. And do you notice something missing? Yeah, right here. That's where the OLED switch dock that I added to my office came from. So funny thing is, 2 weeks ago at a flea market, I saw this switch dock, and then I went back this past weekend to buy it. It waited for me, but it did have some damage on it that I didn't remember seeing the first time. But very fortunately, I was able to clean it up. I used some plastic polish. It did slightly change the texture on the front here, just a little bit, but it cleaned up nicely, looks pristine from a distance, and it really worked out great. So now I have a switch dock here, upstairs, and one in my basement, and just a single switch console that I can share between the setups. Now let me tell you one more thing. By going back to the flea market to find this, I got really lucky and I found some awesome stuff. Check this out. How about a little Pepsi? Introducing the new 8-ounce can from Pepsi. And look at those old logos down there. So let's take a closer look at this. And I looked this phrase up online, I Googled it, and Google was very kind with its AI to explain to me what that perhaps means. But that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for the age range of this sign, because at the bottom, it doesn't have a copyright date. Now, maybe you recognize this Mountain Dew logo in particular, and you could date that yourself. I don't know exactly what time frame it is, but I definitely know not the current logo, and obviously that's not the current Pepsi logo. But yeah, this sign is just cool. It's a little bit grimy, even though I did try to clean it. I just did a real light wipe down with a microfiber rag and some soapy water. Didn't change the appearance too much, which is a good thing. I didn't want to change it too much, but I do think it's a little bit too grimy to go into my game room. I could hang it on a door or something, or I could frame it, give it maybe like a floating look in a frame. I could do something interesting like that, like a thin frame, but still have a floating look to it. But this has a lot of potential. But yeah, $5 and just a refreshing looking can of Pepsi there. All right, check this out. I got Raiders of the Lost Ark, the soundtrack. Really nice condition. Sleeve is pretty good, but most importantly, the record itself is just lovely shape. The original owner had these, not in these paper polyline sleeves, but they had them in another kind of plastic sleeve, and it just kept the dust off. So I only buy records when they're really nice condition. I don't want beat up records. And you can see I put these in the sleeves here just to protect them, to preserve them. I wiped the little bit of grime off the outside and sleeved them up. So yes, Raiders of the Lost Ark, original Star Wars soundtrack, and this is a gatefold. Look at that. Opens up. You could have bought a t-shirt back in the day, and the gatefold here has stills of the movie. Interesting to think about how back when this was a new record, it probably wasn't a very easy way to watch the movie at home. This is from it's copyright 1977. Not sure if that's when the record was pressed, but yeah, this is pretty old. Older than me. All right, let's leave that back up. And again, it's just a treat to put these things down on the turntable and listen to this kind of orchestral music from a pop culture series that's so great. So I did give them a quick spin, and I definitely like them. This is also a gatefold here. And by the way, I'll have links to the basic supplies that I use for my records in the description, in case anybody's looking for that kind of stuff. Yeah, now this hot glue came off of this, but that's okay. I could re-glue it. Wouldn't feel too bad about that. And it makes your records look a lot nicer when you put them into these clear sleeves. Something about it gives it a nice texture and look. So if you collect records and don't do that, I highly recommend it. And you don't need to go overboard and buy really fancy sleeves. All right, next up, let's take a look at some strategy guides that I found. So first off, I found Pokemon Ruby here, and the seller was only asking $3 each for these, which I gladly obliged. Now this one is one that I already had in my collection. I've actually had this since childhood, but the childhood copy that I have is pretty tattered. It was well used, and I didn't even get it brand new back in the day. Somebody else had owned it before me. And I'm not opposed to upgrading my personal copy to a nicer one that I find. So I'm going to get rid of my original copy and keep this one. It's quite a bit nicer. And I do have a nice collection of Pokemon guidebooks. All right, next up I found this, Metroid Prime and Metroid Fusion, 2 strategy guides in one. And I'm surprised this isn't more valuable than it is. It's only worth around $15 or $20, but this is one I'm definitely going to keep. These are 2 games that I have never played the whole way through, but I intend to. So it'll be fun to have the actual guide here to go through, especially for a game like this that's it's a Metroidvania game. It's technically a Metroid game, right? And then next up, now this one I probably will just sell. Really lucked out on this. It's worth about $60 to $70. And I've never played the Digimon World games. And from what I understand, I think they're pretty grindy games. So I probably will just sell this one and then maybe treat myself to something that I otherwise might not spend money on to add to my collection. But yeah, this thing has a poster in there. I don't know if this originally came with it. I don't think Dragon Ball Z Beckett Collector. I'll leave it in there though, why not? Kind of neat. But these were with a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh! Beckett magazines. All right, and then finally I found this Pokemon Crystal guide. And this one, it's a little bit tattered, but I can probably fix this up, maybe even iron that very lightly. Over here, it's a little worn out there, and I could tape that up with this right here, which is acid-free photo-safe tape. I'll put a link to this because this is something really handy to have if you collect magazines or if you collect strategy guides. You can just mend those little problem areas and not have to worry about the tape ever yellowing or degrading the paper because it's acid-free and photo-safe. And check this out. This Crystal version here, it has a Blockbuster logo on the cover. So I'm guessing this was sold at a Blockbuster. But yeah, I actually used to have a strategy guide for Crystal back when I played it, but I gave the guide to a friend. Didn't have this Versus Books version. I had the Nintendo Power Guide. But this looks a little bit more robust than the one I remember having. Nice picture of Suicune on the cover. So I will definitely keep this. I didn't have a Crystal guide in my collection these days. Now I'll show you some footage of me fixing that up at the end. I think it might give you an idea how nice you can get an old tattered book to look if you just put a little bit of care into it.